Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back. Joining me today on the block is Jonathan Oliveira. How are you doing today, Jonathan?
I'm good. It was a great episode. Hold on, which way do I have to look? I'm good. Great episode. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it because, like, what's gonna happen this week's gonna be crazy, especially with what's happening tomorrow too. So
It has been a week. I think that they did a really good job with the episode. They kind of showed pretty well how it went about, but this was like it was times 10 the insanity of how it was happening on the live feeds. But they definitely told the story pretty well, and I was riveted watching it. So I'm happy that you enjoyed it because I love having
I was like,
to talk about.
they wrapped it all up super early. I'm like, wow, the veto's starting early. This is happening early. I'm like, what are they gonna do for the last 20 minutes? And happily surprised with what they did for the last 20 minutes of the episode. So
it was it had all the bits and pieces of like an excellent episode. And it starts the episode with Ty making I think it was a voiceover saying, if I work with the trio, there is a very slim chance that I can win. I need to start working for myself. Now, what did you think about hearing Ty at the beginning of the episode saying this, making these kind of remarks?
I was thinking, I'm like, is this too good to be true? Like, I need people to start making those moves, and they have been recently, but at the same time, I'm like, yes, Ty, like, I think that trio could easily make it to the end and be really strong, and then, like, just to decide, how they want to win out, type of a thing. So, like, by who wins the final competitions or whatever, you can have that, but you're going up against really strong people. And if Ty is smart, he would be like, well, what does Brayden win? What is, you know what I mean? Like, Tara's won almost nothing, except for recently. And so it's like, he needs to be going up with those people and then putting people softly into the jury who would vote for him is the smartest thing to do. So yeah, he needs to start making those big moves. And I'm glad that he's acknowledged that he's, thinking about it at least.
For sure. You see, I hopefully you have some Beth impressions from today's episode, because there was a few moments where I was hoping that you were clocking in on them so you can give them to me. But her first time is she's kind of giggling with Jed in bed in the defender room, I think. And she's just like, oh, I whispered in her ear that you lost your only ally. And I was just kind of thinking, Beth, do you really think that you're Tara's only ally? Only two of you went up on the block. You're nodding?
Yeah, she got really, like, mafioso the last, like, couple episodes. I'm like, where do you get off? Like, we laid into Kiefer being kind of running around the house being like how great he is, and then we have her being like, I was so convincing, though. And I'm like, oh, calm down, Beth. I mean, like, obviously not. But, it's just like, I'm like, where are you drinking your own Kool-Aid from? Like, this is like, be confident, great, but, like, have some realistic expectations and some realizations about what's going on, and doubt as far as what people are telling you. So yeah, the last couple episodes, Beth's been like, it's wild to me. I'm like, you're a little too confident, girl.
A lot too confident, absolutely. Well, Jed also is someone that has an interesting kind of confidence. He talks about, this is the biggest mistake you could have ever made, Tara, because I'm going to win the veto. So Tara, like, her main objective is to get Jed out this week. And so Jed wants to win the veto, and second best option would be for Ty to win the veto, and Ty would use it to take one of them off. So this is what they're thinking of at the beginning of the episode, and like into the beginning after like last week's eviction. So we see Jed talking to Tara now. And Tara is she's actually pretty good with dealing with the nominees, I would say. She's kind of like, she doesn't necessarily want Jed to go. She just knows that he's really strong and that he'll probably win the veto. And, I think she's saying all the right things, and she doesn't want any more blood on her hands. That's why she put him up so he'll take himself down. And so she doesn't have to have like a gazillion people that she has to make angry. What do you think about Tara managing Jeff and her nominations?
She wasn't going hard, which is
Jeff.
Jeff, Jed, Marcellus, whatever. We'll get into that later. But it's it's interesting because she could have been like, if they're talking to each other, and I wondered if they brought, we didn't just see that in the episode, but I'm like, they could have been like, oh, Tara's telling me that she really wants to keep me in, wants this. What is she telling you? Like, she could have been caught in some things because she was kind of making, Beth feel like, I don't want to get rid of you. Jed feel like you're not my target as well. So I'm like, if they sat down and told each other that, it's like, can't take her word for anything. I mean, it did shift from that. There was a lot of other things going on, so it didn't seem like they had that conversation with each other. But I liked how she did that, and then, didn't go hard on it. Wasn't, super like being panicky or scrambling. But I think Tara knows that she, has a shot at something. She needs to take it because she's not down and out, because you do have a chance to win Veto next week, even if you're nominated. And, you have to make these moves. So, like, why not try? And so she was like, you know what? I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm not going to panic about it. And I think she's feeling good that she's, when you like win something in life, or just, you have a good, like something happens, whatever it is, like, it could be a competition that we play games online, so we know this, or just whatever, you feel good. Like, I want
it's such a good feeling to stick it to your enemies.
In October, and I'm still sit there sometimes, I'm like, I won that. I won that. And you know what I mean? Like, it makes you feel good, right?
Yeah.
So I think she's riding that a little bit, and it does well for her gameplay.
It definitely does. It's a good look on Tara for sure. I'm happy that she doesn't have like kind of the Beth HOH-itis, where it's just like she thinks that she's the best, the mastermind of the game. Like, Tara still has a little bit of humility with how she's approaching things. And it could be with age. It could be with her actually having the foresight to think about, hey, these people might have to vote for me to win, so I don't want them to be pissed at me. And so I think how she's handling her HOH so far has definitely been great for her game, and it makes her more likely to win some votes. So
yeah, and we haven't seen her being like, this is for you, Tina, I'm gonna get, like, it hasn't been vengeful. Like, she knows where she is in the game and is just doing what she needs to do right now. So
100%. And she even, it's like, she could be vengeful, but like, she says things like, well, you both put me up on your HOH, and I was expendable to you then. Not that you're expendable to me, but like, I kind of, you already did that to me, so I didn't want to do that to somebody else. And like, that makes sense.
And Jedson was like, oh, didn't he say like, oh, I'm glad you didn't lay into me or whatever? So it's like, she's being reasonable. And that's the thing. It's like, you're going to lie to people and whatnot. But if you are a reasonable person in this game, people will understand that, and they will vote for that at the end, potentially. So
if they don't feel like crap from what you did, you can maybe get their votes. And so I think that she's definitely hoping that other people are a lot more pissed off. And so that if she's sitting in the final two spots, she might get some of those like, hey, I don't want you to win, so I guess Tara will get my vote. So I think she's doing a really good job. So, okay. Things have changed since in the last, I don't know, I think it's day 50 something, 52, 53. Ty and Beth started off the season as some kind of item or whatnot. They were cuddling first in bed or whatever. Then it seems as though Ty put on, the friend zone, saying that he has a girl back in Montreal, his best friend that he wants to have something with after the show. So he kind of brushed Beth off, gave her the friend zone, and then Beth fell into a showmance with Jed. So Jed was always kind of second best, we'll say, with who Beth wanted to have something with. And now I'm seeing, though, that I don't think Ty ever really liked Beth, because Ty says things like he hated how Beth wanted him to go up. Like, she pitched a plan. I don't know if they showed it on Monday's episode, but pitched this sort of plan about like how, you go up and then we'll be able to take you down. And like, this whole big thing, but Ty was going to be the pawn in the situation. He's like, you go up on the block, Beth. You can see a little bit of like disdain coming from Ty. And now Beth is dead to him. So Ty is so over her. And it feels to me like he's just been waiting to be over Beth. What do you think happened with the trajectory of the relationship between Beth and Ty?
Well, I mean, listen, I haven't been a big fan of Beth from the start, so welcome, Ty. But I think that her newfound confidence the last couple weeks, it's not endearing. And I'm sure if it comes across that way to us at home, and I don't think it's editing either. That's who she is. I mean, we must see a lot of that. It's just very kind of bubbly, perky, but then like with a plan, almost telling people what to do instead of like working with people. It's like dictating to them what to do, and that's not something that's going to rub people the right way. But I think there's a lot of that, and he just realized that that's not something he wants. Listen, if she's making those plans against you, you're expendable to her, and it's just if someone like is ready to kind of give you up for someone else, you're not gonna. Yeah, you'd rather team up with the people who are kind of indifferent about you rather than like, or maybe even like might like you, as opposed to someone who's like, kind of supposed to be close to you, but is willing to cut you loose right at the end.
Hi, Natalie. So Natalie says, Ty and Beth, there's nothing there. There's actually absolutely nothing there, but it's just like, it's very interesting for me to see the change in Ty. Like like the way that he speaks better, like his eyes, like are just like he does not like her at all. Like, you like this? You like this version of Ty, like hating on Beth?
I do. I like the bathroom scene, and then when they were talking, and then it was like an establishing shot almost of outside the bathroom. I'm like, it's gonna cut back to him, and he's gonna be dead face. And he was like, and you like saw it, and he was like, and then he's like, I can't wait to get rid of her or send her home or something like that. And I was like,
yep,
oh, please don't. This whole episode, I'm like, please don't tease me with things unless they're gonna happen. I'm like, don't tease me. Don't get my hopes up. I'm having a good week.
Exactly. Don't tease us, please. Okay, so Tara goes in to do some damage control with Beth. And what she does bring up, which I think is a really good way to soften the blow with Beth, was saying like, hey, like you said to me when you nominated me, you didn't want me to go home. And that's the same with me, with you here. I don't want you to go home. I want you to win the veto. I want you to stay here. If you go home, something went terribly wrong. And so I thought that it was really good just to get it in Beth's head that she's not the target, because Beth is just so kind of self-righteous, and like she probably thinks that she's the best player in the game and they're going to want to get her out. And so if she's saying that hearing that Tara wants her to stay, it's definitely going to be helpful to get Beth to do what she wants,
Yeah, later in the episode, someone said about something else to play to Jed's ego. And that made me realize that these people are thinking about that. And I'm sure they thought the same with Beth. It's like they know who these people are now at this later stage in the game, that they're like, oh, this is how we need to feed in. Like, and I do think both Jed, especially Beth, you need to like feed into certain elements of their ego and allow them to think that they're making the moves or coming up with the decisions or whatever the case may be. And and with Beth, it's like allowing her to think that you really want to keep her, that all of her work the last couple weeks of making you like her
has
worked. She's gonna be like, yeah, I did that.
I'm so good. I got Tara wrapped around my finger.
Tara doesn't even want to get rid of me.
My God, Tara wants to keep me. Oh my God, can you believe it? Like, I'm so good at this game.
Yeah. Excellent. That's what I was doing, and then it worked because I'm so great. And it's like, yeah. So, and they know that, and using that is like, that's exactly what you need to do. Thank you. It's gone from sloppy to like mad genius kind of thing with certain people and certain moves, especially today. But yeah.
Definitely people are realizing that the end is near at this point, and so we are seeing an amped up and a more elevated game where people are trying to actually carve out a path for them to the end. That's what I was having problems with this cast, is that like, yes, they're entertaining and interesting and engaging, and I'm enjoying them as human beings, but like their gameplay has been kind of like okay, okay, like episodes always just like not great gameplay, but okay, it's an interesting show to watch. And so at least now we're seeing people that are making moves and having their plans be actualized, and they're not necessarily the best moves I think for their game, but they are making moves what they think is the best move for their games, and I can't ask for more than that.
they kind of got out most of, if not all of, really the other side. So, on all the threats and whatnot. So they were just kind of left to really sit in thinking about the end game. And yeah, it's later in the game. So, and yeah, there's no real opposing, like, you know, queen or
Force,
king on
yes.
the other side of that chessboard that you need to be like, okay, who am I really playing against? It's kind of like, how do I, I'm gonna have to kind of like cannibalize my own team here. What's the best way to do this, especially because we're so late in the game, right? So, yeah, it's perfect.
We see Ty, Brayden, and Kiefer talking, and are really wanting Ty to win it and for Ty to not use it. Now, I think that would be so savage, but we can tell from how the episode is being edited, like Ty seems to be all for, Brayden, Ty, Brayden, Tara, and Kiefer right now. He doesn't seem to have any sort of interest in the triangle anymore. So do you think that Ty would not use the veto if he were to win it?
I
At
was
this
worried.
point?
I was worried with that edit because I'm like, don't want I don't want Brayden to go home. So for me, I was like, whatever happens where Brayden doesn't get put on the block is my best, and it's probably not the best move. It's probably what I don't want to happen, but it's like, I just want him to be safe this week. So I'm like, I don't care what happens. I just don't want Brayden to be put on the block. And, we'll talk about later kind of decisions you have to make and risks you need to take and whatnot. But it was, yeah, I was like, well, if Ty wins it, then he can be convinced to pull one of them off the block. And then Tara will have to put up either Kiefer or Brayden. And and then the trio is saved again, right? So I'm like, that's probably worst case scenario with Ty winning it. Although I would love to see him win it and not use it. But it's too risky for me to allow him to be like that. So I was like, if Jed or Beth win it, at the very least, it's just taking them off, and then Ty can be put on the block, and one of the three still go. And I think that's like, if I was HOH, I'd be like, I don't care who tells me what plans are come up with or whatever.
That's it.
One of
That's
the
the
three
objective.
needs to go, and that's all that's happening. I'm like, I'm not going to risk anything else. That's what I would have done as an HOH. So
100%.
worst case
100%.
scenario would have been Ty for me winning.
So Ty was saying that they've been on a honeymoon for 2 weeks, and I'm tired of seeing it. So he's annoyed more than you, it seems, Jonathan, of seeing Beth and Jed canoodling and kissing and rubbing noses.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering though, is Ty mad that he doesn't have that relationship with Beth because he had that opportunity in the beginning? Like, there was a weird energy. Like, I don't care, but like, I was just noticing that like, there's something about this couple that it really rubs him the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, being a third wheel when there's a lot more people in the house is one thing. Being a third wheel when there's like 6 people in the house is awkward. And so I think he's really probably feeling that. And again, that, the weeks of like flirting and whatnot accumulating is just like, I'd be over it. I'd be like, it's just not cute.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like, it probably would gross me out. And it's maybe he also doesn't like Beth, and so he probably thinks that Beth is just kind of how she is. She's a little bit snaky, and I don't know if they showed it in the episode, but she was bragging at one point about how her like most recent ex-boyfriend, she stole him from another or something. Like, there's some weird thing about like how she was like manipulates guys all the time.
You know what? I don't like any Beths in my life. So sorry if there's any Beths watching. Prove me wrong.
Do I know any Beths?
But I don't like any Beths. I've not met a Beth that I like. I actually know at least one other Beth, and I don't like her.
Is it the name? What if she goes by Elizabeth?
No, I know some Elizabeths. So yeah.
You like Elizabeth, or you don't?
I'm fine. No, I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm fine.
It's just people that go by Beth.
By Beth.
I don't think I know a Beth.
I mean, probably for the better.
I mean, I do keep toxic people out of my life. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if Beth on the show is toxic, but
if you are a nice Beth, leave a note in the comments. But I don't know. I'm sorry. I just don't know a Beth that I enjoy currently.
Do you know, well, they say that your name holds an energy. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of research to see if there is an energetic, or like, you put the names together or the letters together and you do the numerology of the name. So maybe I'll see if there's any historical relevance to a dislike of the name Beth. I'm going to look it up. That's my homework for this week. Yeah, for you, Jonathan.
Let me know.
So you've been highly critical, for a good reason, of the veto, well, most of the competitions in the show, especially the veto. So what did you think about this veto competition this week?
It like reminded me of like Amazing Race a little bit, almost, in a way, with Expedia or whatever. I liked it. It's something that was on the wall. They could have studied. They absolutely should have been studying everything. That's sorry, my animals are having a little wrestling match, which you may
they heard the name Beth and they just went to town.
See what I mean? And so, I liked it. The first part of the competition, obviously in 3 parts, was, giving you clues. I've played, I'm sure you have as well, many, when I was a kid, even within books where they give you that process of elimination. They're like, the second house from the left is not next door to, or is not the red one. Like I do those all the time still. So I'm like, I'd be great at that one. And then the second competition was
you'd be really great at that.
I do that all the time.
That one was very easy though. It had it was like 4 moves.
When Jed said he was working his way backwards, I'm like, that's exactly how I do it.
Of course
that's what
you do.
You have to. It's like a maze, guys. If anyone does mazes, I'm pretty good at them too. I always look at the end first, and that's how you do it. You just map it out in 2 seconds backwards. Same with that particular one. And then the third one, I'm like, do they know what Canada looks like? Like Niagara Falls is in Quebec, or like, I'm like, I mean, I've always been decent at geography, but come on, like, not only was it on the wall, I could absolutely do it just life knowledge.
Well, there's only like 10 points, and even if you didn't know, you could probably like Kiefer on his round, he messed up where Banff and somewhere else is West Coast. Maybe I'd mix up those two because I wouldn't necessarily know where they were.
He's West Coast.
I know, that's why. And he was talking about like, I don't know anything about East Coast, and he messes up his side of the board. I think I'd get all of the East Coast stuff. I mean, I think I'd get it right the first time, especially if I was in the house for 2.5 months. I would have looked at that board.
Oh, we would have it memorized in a week. Like, it would be like step 1. What are we doing?
It's like, let's memorize each of these rooms, guys. Like,
absolutely. Like, as soon as that room opened up, that would be the first thing that I was doing, because it wasn't open at first, right? But that would absolutely be the first thing that I'd be doing. And I mean, and just in general, like, I would absolutely know where all those places are, having never been anywhere outside of Ontario in Canada, minus Montreal and Quebec. I would still know where they all are. So it's not, I was really surprised, but I mean, some of the younger people, I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't know. I was like, guys, it was in the house. It was there.
It was definitely very easy. The puzzle also was very easy. So just to bring it back to what actually happened in the veto competition, I love the fact that they brought family in. So we see Jed's brother. Jed goes first. He gets called to the Expedia room to do this. And the winner of the veto is also going to win a trip for 2. So starting off with solving the clues from the bag, process of elimination, as you said, and find the 2 suitcases that he needs to bring to the next phase. Once he gets there, it's kind of one of those, like, remove the red, rectangle out off the board.
Or they often do it with cars or
cars. Well. And so this one was like very, like, sometimes they can be challenging, but this one, it was like basically like, move this, move that, move this, and then move that. I was like, it was really not very many moves. So I was surprised that people stumbled on that one for that round, but some people just don't see the puzzle. So I can get it, but I can't.
Jed, they didn't tell us all the times, but we know that Jed and Ty going into the third round were only like a minute apart. Like, one was 7 minutes, one was 8 minutes. And I was like, I thought that's very good times to have done the first 2 puzzles together. Because the first one takes some time as well. So, I mean, they did them both in a couple minutes, which was great. The other ones really struggled with that. So that wasn't that great. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then
I think they did well on the first two, those two guys.
For sure. Yeah, no, they definitely they had a sense of urgency. So you can tell both both Jed and Tashawn wanted to win the veto because there was a sense of urgency. Brayden, I don't know if he doesn't know what urgency is, but he's just like la da 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 da. Oh, do do do. Like I'm like, Brayden, your life is on the line here. Like, come on, there's not that many people to choose from for a renom. Win this veto and save yourself, you know?
He's like, damn it. Like, Brayden plays like I would on like a game on my phone. Like, that's
like,
for no money.
While you're like watching TV. Like,
you know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's like, oh, I didn't get that one. But you know, I'm like, no, Brayden, there's a lot of money online, and you're, you know, one of 6 people who can win this. So I mean, little, you know, pedal to the metal there.
Please.
Yeah.
And so the third part we kind of mentioned already is that they had to put together a puzzle of the Expedia map of Canada. And so there's not that many major spots in Canada. Like there's only 10 provinces. There's those 2 where it was none of it's considered a territory, 3 territories, and, you know, major cities all across. Like there's not that many big landmarks, and you could be able to tell what they are when you see them laid out like that. So I thought it was really surprising that they had no idea. It was a regular map. It may be a little bit more challenging because like there would be a lot of other little nooks, whatever. But like it was a very basic map with basic clues that you've been seeing for the last 3 or 2 months, whatever, however long it's been there. So yeah, it was very surprising that they couldn't do puzzles. I was like, when I saw Tashawn starting to do the puzzle, I was like, oh, he's not good at puzzles. Okay.
And you have to remember too, they did show us the times and then give us the end result. And if you do that math, it took them about 20, like people who did well on it and, you know, were in first and second place. It took them about 20 minutes to do that end puzzle.
Like that's,
and I'm like, I know there was some
really
pieces and you had to put them there and stuff, but I'm like, honestly,
if you did that in more than 5 minutes, Jonathan, I would be flabbergasted.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I would even give myself like, okay, I'm not there, I'm not doing it, whatever. But I'm like, if I took beyond 10 minutes, I would be like, there's something seriously wrong with me. Like
you would probably be beating yourself up for the fact that you took 10 minutes.
I should be able to do like how Jed seemed to put it on, like where he's putting on the places. He seemed to go bam, 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 bam. Mm-hmm. I feel like the whole puzzle should have been like that. Like yes, the colors were a little trickier because they were kind of like this like purple blue kind of thing. But at the same time, I mean, it's like a puzzle. Start with the border. Like, you know.
Yeah, or like, could they not use the ground at least? Like, you know, like if you...
You know the shape. So like start with like, if you don't know, like, how do you not know like the Great Lakes and like, you know, use the border, like where Michigan is and just the East Coast, West Coast, like, use the border and work your way in, and you should have it done in a few minutes, like really
super fast. I mean, I personally probably would have laid all the pieces out on the ground if we're allowed to do that, and then put them up on the board, because I think what was hanging people up, no pun intended, was hanging them up on the board and then being in the wrong spot and not being able to see it properly. So I probably would have wanted to lay it out.
Austin did that earlier in the year, and she was beat out by who won that one? Jed. So I would be nervous about that. I would have clocked that. I would have noted that if I was in the competition. So I was thinking about it when I watched it. I was like, ooh, you know, Austin tried that earlier, and it does make for a more solid approach if it's really confusing. But I would have been confident in my ability to map out Canada, that I would have started with the border and worked myself way in. I mean, they
must have had multiple straight edges that were confusing, because I mean, we're both good at puzzles, so that's probably why we just don't get it.
Like 20 minutes is a long, you know, for the winner, like is a
for like
long
a
time.
15-piece puzzle.
It's a long time to, yeah. And then the places, and there were people going back and forth with the play. Like we saw Kiefer, we saw Brayden, we saw Beth all get places wrong. That's that's kind of inexcusable to me, but you know, if they just surprised you with it and you had like, oh god, I'm bad at geography, and there was no, but I'm like, no, it was a room you had access to. You're bored out of your mind half the time. Like, why aren't you just sitting in there memorizing it? So
make a song about the order of them. It's if I was on The Amazing Race, I mean, I would, if I get on The Amazing Race ever in my life, like I would be stuttering every single flag, flower, country, where it is on the map, like 100%, whether I need to use it or not, I would be going into major studying.
Yeah.
But because like they've had it before, like, can you place every country in Africa? And like, I could never, I would have no idea how to get that correct unless I studied it. So this I thought was quite basic comparatively to what they've made people do on like The Amazing Race without giving them the, hey, you're going to need to study this, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly. And there's not much in the house to do or things that you can look at. Like, even if I didn't think that was ever going to be a competition, I would just be looking at that because there's nothing else to look at. Like, I'd be like, you know what I mean? And you're just sitting there and be like, oh, that's where Banff is, or like whatever, you know what I mean? Like, just you would just have nothing else to do other than kind of forcefully study it. But at the same time, I would have actively been studying it if I needed to, with whoever I was friendly with in the house, and probably make a game out of it and quiz each other on it. And there'd be many of those nights. And like, you know, even trying to do it out of order or like alphabetically or like, you know,
spell it backwards.
absolutely. Like what's, you know, what like length of letter, like many different ways I would have in and out. So, you know, I don't want to take away from how well they did, but those times, guys, those times.
Yeah, I'll tell you the times. So, okay.
Proud of.
So just kind of what you're saying. So to Sean, after the car, like the first two parts, his time was 7:20 and Jed's was 8:30. And so the order, so in fifth place was Braden with 39 minutes and 18 seconds. So if we say that he took 10 minutes to do the car and the luggage one, it took him full on 20 minutes to do that puzzle at the end. Beth, 3109, similar, maybe a little bit more like 15, 16 minutes. Kiefer in third place with 27 minutes and 6 seconds. Second place is Ty with 26:27, and then first place was Jed with 22 minutes and 10 seconds. So Jed took about 15 minutes with that puzzle.
Yeah. So I mean that's yeah. So Ty took probably about 19, and then Jed took about 15. But yeah, I mean that's better. But we saw how quickly he put the places on. So his was more of like getting the pieces to fit. But I mean he deserved it. He deserved to win it. You did a good job. You beat people out who were really trying to win it. So I mean everyone was playing to win. So good for him.
And and like what I liked about that competition myself is, as someone that likes playing these games, it was multi-leveled. So like it tested different things. So if like you weren't necessarily good at one thing, you could be good at the other thing or whatever, it could make up your time. And so I loved that it just like used so many different parts of the brain and things. Like, I love puzzles. I love like, you know, figuring out like the car jam, and I do like the process of elimination thing. Like that's actually really fun to me. So
because when I saw the first two as well, I was like, oh no, the guys might be quicker with pulling the luggage out or pushing, you know what I mean? And it's like, imagine if Tara was in, I'm like, she's smaller. And so I was like, but then when I saw the puzzle at the end, I was like, oh, that's a great way for someone to catch up. And I've said this earlier this season, I said, I like when they have these types of things. It's like Survivor when you have a mix. So you played at different strengths. So you have it's like when in the challenge as well. It's like you have a mix of things. So it's not just physical. It's not just mental. It's, you know, people can excel in other ways.
100%. Yeah, I definitely really enjoyed this. And it didn't seem, you know, heavy-handed with the Expedia branding, you know, like we know it was an Expedia challenge. I'm sure that they talked to their team, you know, about like what they're going to do for the competition. But I thought they did a really good job. I thought bringing in all the family members. So I said we saw Ty's brother, we saw Beth's sister, Braden's mom, Kiefer's wife, and who was the last person? And Tashawn's godmother. So I thought that, you know, it was a good way to bring in the family with that. Nice to offer the trip. You know, I love a competition where you're winning something else. Like I think that's fun in these. It's a game show, you know. So you want to win prizes.
Yeah, exactly. But having said that, I was like, if I was Tara, I'd be like, I wanted to host that. You know what I mean? I'm like, took it away from Tara to host that, but still, I mean, it's. I was like, oh, okay, your family member gets a lot of screen time, but
They do, they
it's
do.
a nice, interesting boost, like a push to make you want to win. So that was it. Yeah, it was
Tara might have been, well, she's probably getting a lot of family messages with the Wendy's and with her head of household, but like Tara might be a little bit jealous that she doesn't get that little video message of their family rooting her on for the veto. So I'm still not sure how I feel about the head of household not being able to defend their nominations.
I don't like it.
I just kind of like let them friggin' play.
Yeah.
Like, I know that they want to increase the possibility of it being used, and if the person wins the veto, it's most likely not going to be used. But like, I'd rather it be an option,
Yeah, you should be able to defend your nominations,
especially if one of them is going to be coming back, or you're going to make another enemy in the house. So you can't prevent yourself from making another enemy in the house. I think that's, and if you want to throw, like, not try hard, like, have it be like at your own discretion. But the fact that it's just taken away from you completely because they want people to use it to create more drama, it's kind of like, that sucks for the head of household.
I've definitely and again, we've played games like this before. When we play Big Brother, it's like sometimes you absolutely want to go into, your HOH, and you're like, no, I want to go into veto and I need to win it because I need to lock these in. So sometimes you need to do that to get someone out. So although it's interesting and different, I'm still not comfortable with it, to be honest, with how I feel about it. And maybe it's a good thing that it changed things up, but I'm kind of over it. I mean, we can go back to how it was. Thank you.
Yeah, go back to like the good way, the right way.
I mean, or maybe like in the beginning, for the first 4 weeks, you don't get to play, but then later on you do, when there's a lot of people. Like, I don't know, but like, or maybe when you get down to, a certain amount of numbers, you do. I don't know. I just think.
But I think that maybe what they should do is not like, and I think they've been doing quite a good job this season, is not make it only physical competitions where the big buff guys are always going to win. Like, maybe look at these type of competitions that you're having that would make it like, okay, if he wins the head of household and he wins the veto because he's a comp beast, like, make it a little bit less likely. So if it's more puzzle heavy or more, a mix of different things, that you don't necessarily have to be the big buff guy. Well, I think that that's how they should be looking at it instead.
Yeah, like the competition where they have on the wall and you're on a little ledge and it tilts and all that stuff that we see all the time in Big Brother. Like, that competition is almost always won by either a woman or a slight
small
man, like
petite.
Yeah. And so it's, kind of where it's geared towards, right? So I agree with you. I think that if you're having something like that, then maybe you can have a more physical, and especially if you have like a range in ages, like have something more puzzly if you have like one that's like brute force, so
I feel like you shouldn't be able to predict who is going to win any competition, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't be like, okay, so-and-so or so-and-so are going to be the final two. Or, I think in season, 7 it was, where they had to be hanging upside down, holding themselves. I'm like, a woman's not going to win that. No, there's no way. Like, it's just not likely. Or it's somebody that's like really works out really hard. Like, it's like, if you could tell who is going to most likely win, I think they need to change it up a little bit and make it not necessarily a crapshoot, but like, have multiple elements that will test different things, because maybe most women can't do pull-ups and stuff like that, but they have really great balance, and they have really great lower body strength. So have multiple things where more than one body type is going to be favored in the competition, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm a little bit more lenient, because I know that would be like really hard to ensure that every competition's like that. I'm a little bit more lenient, where I think just overall, if if it's just changing up, so you can't predict what's happening. But I'm okay if you go into a competition, you're like, well, it favors these people, but then just don't make sure you don't have the veto like that as well if the HH is like that.
Yes, I agree with you.
And every week needs to be a mix. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, you can't like guarantee that, it's like they had, like, what was the most boring competition this year for me? Oh, the arrow.
Oh, I thought it was going to be the apple walking back the apple.
I mean, they're right neck and neck. But that wheelbarrow, let me tell you, that was riveting. But and they were both kind of in and around the same time. But yeah, the arrow one was 2 women at the end, right? And I thought that could have been anybody. But wasn't that like Latoya and Austin at the end or something like that? I'm
I
maybe
think
Braden or
so.
something. But
I
yeah,
think I think it's, he made a promise to Latoya that she wasn't going to put her out.
yeah,
So he did. Latoya was second to last or third last, and they made it.
yeah,
I
something
think it
like
was just
that.
second.
But yeah, so it's that could be anyone, and I can appreciate that. It just wasn't an exciting competition, but yeah. So I don't know. As long as they mix it up, I'm okay with it. But yeah, this was a good one.
But yeah, so the mixing it up would be is what it needs, not removing the head of household from playing in the competition. So they would get the same result if they just chose to have a little more creativity with how they made their competitions. That's it. Don't make them all physical, and you won't have this problem that the person's going to win both. So that's just what it is. So we see Ty, Tara, and Kiefer talking after the veto competition. Ty kind of upset because he thought that he won it. And you hear like Kiefer being like, fucking Jed. And so Kiefer really, really, really wants Jed out. So do you think it was a mistake that they decided to keep Kiefer last week on Jed's HOH and voted out Tina?
Shocked. I was shocked because why would you keep Tina, who's 1-0 and is no threat? Like, you can absolutely beat her and take her out at any point because she hasn't won the question ones. She hasn't come close. She hasn't won. The closest she came to was that veto that Tara won. Like, she really hasn't won anything and only recently came close in one competition. So I mean, I would be not even remotely threatened by Tina, although she's a duo, whatever. And I think it's such a mistake. I would never give, like I commented on Monday's episode, I would never ever give someone a resume building move. And like Kiefer makes it anywhere near the end. We'll talk about what happened in this episode. But even just from what happened last week, he can be like, guys, my own players wanted me out. My team wanted me out. And it doesn't matter who kept him, who just made those decisions.
Exactly.
The
It's
fact
like,
of the
I
matter
stayed.
is he stayed and they all wanted him gone. And they turned on him and then he stayed. I mean, I'd vote you to win.
Of course you would. Be like,
in fact, after that, I was like, I think I want Kiefer to win now. After today's episode, I was like, if Kiefer makes it to the end, I would vote for him in a heartbeat. That's who I'm rooting for. And I wasn't the whole game.
Not at all. Like, you
No.
definitely have come around at this point.
You make those moves. They're very, very smart. I mean, I think he's a likable person. I like Kiefer. But, I mean, it's all about the game moves to me. And he is playing. So, good for him.
So Jed and Kiefer talk, and so Jed wants for Tara to put up Brayden in order to not piss off Ty. So this is the first time that we hear Brayden even being an option, and I just I can't even fathom in my head why people would even think to consider Brayden as somebody to put up. Kind of your same argument with Tina. Why would Tina go home when she's no threat? Same with Brayden. He's not really a threat. He hasn't really done anything. So the fact that Jed is hoping that Tina will do this, and when he uses it on himself and have Brayden up against Beth, like, why would they vote out Brayden?
I think it's people convincing themselves that, like we talked about this before, but people convincing themselves that, they just don't see it. And where like Kiefer last week was doing it for himself, he was just convincing himself he's not going to be put up. It's just like, yeah, maybe like, Brayden could be put up because that's when it's like, why is Tara going to put up Brayden and want to keep, like, why is Tara like, you know what, I put you both up, but I really want to keep you guys. So to like, kind of backdoor Brayden or something. Like, why would that be the thing? It just doesn't make sense.
No sense whatsoever.
Yeah, but like, that's where you need to like step back and like see the big picture, not play with your emotions in those moments of what you would like to happen, but what's really happening.
Well, and also, like, why aren't they looking what is the best scenario for their opponents? Like, you kind of have to, like, okay, this would be best scenario for me.
Yeah.
But what's the best scenario for them?
Yeah, put yourself in their shoes. And, I mean,
work backwards.
That's how I play from. Like, it's always, I'm always like, what is this person thinking? What would they want this week? What would they, you know what I mean? You just need to survive. So, yeah, absolutely. Put yourself in their shoes and figure out what they might want. Do you want to come here? Do you want to
Well,
stay on the line?
and like I just said it now, but like Jed said it when he was doing the puzzle. You agreed with it, and you always say like, okay, what do you want the end result to be? How to and then work backwards. And so if they had just taken that, what is the end result? So the end result is that Tara wants to have Jed out and or break up that trio. If that is always going to be her objective, no matter what, because this is her head of household, why would there be any other scenario that she would be willing to do that wouldn't allow her to complete that objective?
Yeah.
Right? Her objective is to break up the trio.
Yeah, I know. And you need to be playing. Listen, I know their neck's on the line, but they need to be playing offensively, not defensively. Like, don't just protect yourself. You need to be making the moves. You need to be like, how do I get out of this? But how do I get out of this in a way that
Benefits
allows
me.
Yeah, exactly. And so you need to be looking in from that angle. And I didn't see it. So where I've commended Jed, previously into really kind of thinking things through and having a certain viewpoint, I think he was quick to do that. But he's slow this week to realize when, I think I think he's just too shook being on the block, that it's thrown him a little bit.
He's not used to being in this position where he has to fight for himself. And
not thinking straight.
Because if he was always up on the block, like he would never allow for people to sway him any sort of way. You know what I mean? Like,
whereas everyone else has been like in that position multiple times, and they're playing hard because of it, And so like Kiefer, I'm talking about like Tara, like, so, he's like, wait a minute, I'm on the block. I don't like this. How do I, and then, I'm one.
We'll just get Brayden out. Like, duh. Like, we're smarter than Tara.
It's that confidence of winning Veto too that really kind of throws your perspective. And I mean, we'll see what happens.
So we see Kiefer, it seems like it's immediately, goes and tells Tara that Jed and company is going to be pushing Brayden to go up on the block. Kiefer's saying like, no, you have to put up Ty.
Can I just say that I love that Kiefer does this? Because in my head, I'm like, please someone tell her right away before it happens. Please someone tell her right away. And this is now the second time that Kiefer has done that. Gone up to her and be like, this is what's going to happen, just so you know. Because it allows you to have that like, I won't get swept away with this information. You know what I mean? I won't buy into it. And maybe she wouldn't have anyway. But Kiefer's done this a few times, and it's a very good move.
With Brayden, for Monday's episode, where he tells Brayden that Beth is going to pretend like she wants to get Ty or to get Jed out, and so everything that Beth did probably seemed so over the top and over dramatic, and like so like, oh my god,
and
you're
you
so
instantly don't like it because it was planned out. Like, it doesn't seem genuine. And if you find out about it after the fact, because I've been in these situations, you don't think of it as harshly. You're like, oh, okay. But if you know about it beforehand, the anger that you have in that moment when you know someone's coming to you and it was like planned and like contrived and stuff. It's one of Kiefer's best qualities. He always plays, and I appreciate that, but it's having that, I don't know if it's just something innate that he does, but knowing that he needs to go to that person, being like the person who's giving them that information, that truth, building that connection, but also preparing them to not be taken by that information. It's just multi-level. It's just smart. It's so smart.
He has to do that because it looks like, hey, like he's helping, he's working with me, he's giving me information, like he's on my side. And so it's definitely, especially right now, keeping himself off the block, like kind of wrestling him into a good position next week that he's most likely not going to be the target. So yes, I think it's definitely good how he's just giving them a little bit of a heads up so that they can go in armed with these conversations. Next up, we see Brayden calling all the house guests to the living room. It's for Skip the Dishes. Did you vote this week? Me neither. I don't even know where to vote.
No, I don't. I
And
don't ever vote. And also, like, honestly, Skip the Dishes needs to put their money not into
in the
marketing but
app.
into the app. So I'm still. I said it weeks ago. I'm still waiting for them to call me and like, I'll tell you what's wrong with it. But
Absolutely. Maybe you'll get, as we were hoping, like a year's worth of free Skip the Dishes because of your important input that they need to.
yeah, and
Well,
then in year two, trust me, if it's done perfectly, I will keep you afloat just in my own. The amount of I don't cook. The amount of food that I have delivered to my house is it's I have a problem, I think. So
you
it's like,
definitely only order in.
yeah.
I mean, I love delicious food, so that's pretty fun that you always have delicious food to eat. But it's also like a little
Well,
really
not always,
expensive.
because I've told you about it. The trick is, if anyone's dieting out there, here's a trick: buy something you don't like. Because I no, I'm
So you
serious.
don't eat it?
Because you don't eat it. Buy something that you don't like. Like, I don't like sushi. I'm sorry, I don't. And so if I'm like, ugh, I need to like be careful with what I'm eating, I will go out, buy some sushi, have a couple bites, hate the whole thing, give it. I don't throw it out. I give it to someone, like pre-pandemic, would give it to someone else at work,
And so you
and
don't
then
eat
I
it.
had a
Stay
light lunch.
skinny.
Light lunch.
I mean, I enjoy food, so I'm just going to enjoy it, but then maybe take my time eating it, so I'll get full faster, and then I'll just be like, oh, I'm good, thank you. I'll stop. I'll save that for later. But your approach, I'm sure it works for you, but it
Eat
wouldn't work for
something
me.
that you think is disgusting. You won't eat that much of it. I promise you.
You're right. You are right. So to Sean, though, he was so happy. Like he really looked like a kid at Christmas. And when he had all the containers in front of him, he's just sitting there like full grin. I think that he was the best person to win this week because he was definitely, his reaction was the best, I thought.
It's always such a good indicator too of who Canada's backing, and that's such important information as a player in the
Definitely,
house.
definitely. I mean, nobody has mentioned that, but that's what I would think. I'd be like, ooh, people like Ty. So
Yeah.
if there's any other votes, like maybe he's going to get it. Like if Canada gets a vote, that could be bad. Like, so I would be thinking about that.
Or even like Rohan used to get it before, and I'd be like, I would have. It might even sway me to like keep someone who who in case anything happens, they're on my side in case I get an advantage or something like that.
So, okay, this is where the episode just completely shifts. So we see Kiefer talking to Tara about a plan that he pitched and came up with the night before, talking through it with Brayden and Tashawn. So he is proposing that Jed uses the veto that he just won to save himself, but now instead use it on Beth with the promise that Brayden will go up instead. What do you think is, the likeliness of this plan being effective?
Oh, well, anyone who's watched Big Brother will remember Marcellus and Amy. And you're like, how did that work out? And so, not well. He went home. So it was, you know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things where you're like, no. But I mean, I love how Kiefer walks into every room like he just woke up from a nap. But I was like, you know what? It's worth it. And he was selling it because he's like, doesn't work. But we can try. Always be playing the game. Do not rest. Just because you're in power, just because you're good, don't overplay. But think what your best strategy can be and how that can help you further into the game. And he wants Jed gone.
He wants Jed gone. Now, I don't necessarily think that it's best for Kiefer's game to have Jed be gone, to be honest, because I do think that Kiefer is better, like in a better position than Jed is. I think that he would win against Jed. And so the fact that he doesn't have this big target in front of him in the house that people are going to want to go for, I think it could be bad for Kiefer in case people, Ty might get a little bit flashy and decide to take out Kiefer because Kiefer is probably the biggest threat for him to leave this game. And so,
but there's still Beth. And it's like, I know that, you know, he probably knows that Tara doesn't love Beth, and you know, he probably knows that he's stronger with Tara. Like if it's like 3 against 3, it's like he can work with the other two, and if it's down to like you get Jed out, Jed wins a lot of things. So it's like you're playing with Ty, who doesn't win anything really, and then Beth, who's probably the going to be the next biggest target. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing. You need to take your shots when you can take your shots, because if you wait to the end, you know, you might not be able to get them out. So I would 100% be going for Jed right now.
BB, hi BB. BB says Marcellus was Jed's mentor for the season. LOL. Oh, Malanta. Natalie, we'll talk about your two comments and questions at the end, because it's not spoilerous, but like it talks about after this episode is finished. So we will get to them, Natalie. I have not forgotten you. So I'm thinking this is like the most ridiculous plan that could ever be hatched. And so, you know, Tara's like, he wouldn't fall for that. Why would he fall for that? And, you know, like if Jed comes down, Brayden goes up. Like I'm not putting up Brayden. Like that's dumb too. Like I can't do it. And he's like, well, you could promise that to Jed that, you know, if he takes down Beth, that you'll put up Brayden, and, you know, Brayden will go home or whatever. And I'm still thinking, I'm like, no, in what universe will Brayden go home? In what universe will Tara put up Brayden? Like Tara has to put up Ty if that's the case, if Beth comes down. But I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. But Tara doesn't seem to want to piss off Ty. And that is one of the reasons why she doesn't want to put up Ty. And then she also was kind of thinking now, like, but maybe I could tell Beth that the reason why I want to keep her is because if she's up against Brayden, that she would probably go home, and I don't want it to be a boys' club here, so I need to have Beth stay. And so I'm just shocked that she's coming up with things that might actually work. I know like how you're feeling, but tell me more about how you're feeling about how this plan starts to be hatched.
Yeah, they're really understanding how that, like, first of all, everyone needs to be in on it except for Beth, you know, and then Jed. And like Beth, you need to play a certain way. Again, it's feeding in certain people's egos. You know, Beth's going to want to do anything to get off the block. And so hinting at, well, we could do that, you know, and that way, like, is exactly what you need to do. And then having Ty in on it as well. I mean, as I stated before, I would never, ever, 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 if I was Tara, I would bet on my kids and my everything, my dog, whatever, and still put Ty up at the end of the day. I would. I don't even care if it was, because I couldn't risk them playing me. I would be like, you know what, Ty, I'm sorry, I just have to put you up. Trust that Brayden and Kiefer are going
still
to
true
vote
to
to keep you. I mean, I just can't risk that you're not still working with those two. And I hope you understand that.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, I would never put Brayden up ever, because they could still work as a trio and can be convinced, who knows. But I mean, so it's a bigger risk for Tara. It's a big risk for Tara. But if it works, it's a good plan. And I understand that from Jed's perspective. But really, everyone needs to be on this, convincing Jed from their own personal angle. And it's kind of what's happening. And I'm like, what's going on?
I know. So Tara starts the plan. So her part is that she has to convince Beth to get Jed to use the veto on her. And right away, Beth's like, no, he's not going to, I don't even want to ask him that. And Tara kind of like, well, like I would put up Brayden if like if you go up against Brayden, like you would go home, Beth. But like if it's Ty, if it's Jed, then Jed would stay. And it's kind of like, why would Jed stay, but I wouldn't stay? It just doesn't seem to make any sense. So, and like, this discrepancy is like, oh, Ty says that he will never vote out. No, he would vote out Beth over Brayden, but not Ty over Brayden. Anyways, regardless, it was just I thought it was silly. I was like, if I was Beth, I'd be like,
it was silly, because like if they just sat there and really thought it out, they would be like, especially later on with when they're around the hot tub, they could be like, well, why do we even need to do this? Because like when Jed called Beth out on that around the hot tub, he's like, why wouldn't you just put it? Well, because then I would go home or whatever. It's like, and then when you had Kiefer out there and Ty out there, you could just ask them. You're like, guys, you'll keep, Beth, right? Like it's not a thing, right? And you can just call them out while you're all out there, and they would never have to happen. But that never happened. So if people just sat there and like really thought it out, and you can just have that conversation, this plan would have never worked. But it all kind of happened really quickly at the same time. I think when everyone was kind of on Jed, and I was like, this is crazy. I'm like, it's too much of a tease for it to happen. I'm like, there's no way. No
So after Tara makes this pitch to Beth, we see Beth after be like, oh, she genuinely wants me to stay. And then you hear the voiceover of Beth on her way to talk to Jed being like, I will do anything to get off the block. And so she is going to do what it takes to get Jed to use the veto on her. So Beth outside, so this is around the hot tub scene that you're kind of talking about. Beth tells Jed that Tara wants to keep Beth, and that if he uses the veto on her, she will put up Brayden, and then the trio would have the votes. It just is like, even that, it's too unfathomable. They have to see this coming. Like, how do you not see, like, oh, and then we have the votes? Why would somebody make such a stupid move? That would be my question. Why would someone make that the stupidest move possible?
Yeah. And like Tara going into it, putting up you two on the block without ever telling you, like, the actual plans at this back door or anything like that. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, again, I just don't think anyone really thought it out. Tara was blindsided with not Tara. Beth was blindsided with just like, I need to get off the block. I need to get off the block. I need to get off the block. Everyone else was in on the plan. And I don't know what Jed was thinking.
I don't know what Jed was thinking, but BBan says, well, we have some swampland in Florida to sell to Jed. Oh, poor Jed. Oh, Jed. I mean, he's my last player on my my draft picks.
And when he won veto, I was like, well, there you go. Jed's going to win the whole season. Chantel is going to win our draft. And yeah, it's kind of like, I'm just like, there's no way that he's really buying into this, right? There's no way.
There's no way. There's no way. It's the stupidest thing ever. And then Kiefer comes out there to kind of lay it all in. And so Kiefer's now talking about how, like, oh my God, this move would be so good. And like, I don't know who starts inflating his ego. Maybe it was Ty. I don't know. They're all out there at one point. Basically the four of them. So the Triangle and Kiefer, they're like, if this works, this could be legendary. Yeah. Like, people just want this legendary, this greatest of all time status, this alpha move. I'm like, this is like so not alpha.
Jed said that. He's like, alpha move. He said it's a GOAT move. Like, this is Jed's, so coming up with it himself in his head. And so I'm like, oh, he's like really thinking about this. You could tell when he's saying those things. Yeah.
Absolutely. And he's like kind of excited. There was another conversation that wasn't aired with just him and Ty talking about it. And he's like, man, this is the move. This is the move of the season. And Jed's was like, yeah, like, I've been thinking about this move, like, this whole season, like, doing something legendary like this. Like, so maybe Ty was right in really knowing that this is something that Jed would buy, because he's been talking about making some big move like this, even though it literally is the dumbest move I've ever seen that possibly anybody could ever fall for.
And usually in a game like this, when you have such a tight duo, like, Ty and Jed, we saw like day one, I mean, like, best friends, you usually don't have those people turn on each other. Maybe at the final three, picking someone over someone else so that you can kind of win that money, right? To make it to the final two. Mm-hmm. But not now, like, turning on each other. And that's what Ty's doing. And I'm living. I'm like, yes, please. Like, thank you. I'm like, this is great.
What do you think about, so you are a casting director, so you see actors every day. Ty says that he's not an actor, but when he goes out to talk to Jed, he puts on his best friend, I'm part of the sauce, face, attitude, reactions. Like, what did you think about Ty's performance this episode?
I mean, no, I wasn't buying it. And so you can sell that swampland to Jed. I think there was a lot of blinders on, and if you, I mean, Ty's very transparent. I think even in his looks with earlier on in the episode with around Beth, and she was like, "Oh, we're like, we had a flirting. We're like this little thing," and he was like, "Ha ha ha." Like he's wasn't. I don't think he was hiding much there, and yet people weren't picking up on it seemingly. So I wouldn't have believed him. But again, I'm a professional. I have people lying to me all day long. So, and it's my job to kind of like try to believe it. So, yeah, I wasn't buying it, but I mean,
man, like if this is the Oscar performance that sold it to Jed, like Jed needs to up his bar for what he can accept and tolerate
it's all ego. It's all people hearing what they want to hear, and they really played on it this week. And like, good job, Kiefer. Good job, Tara. Like
it's so mortifying, though. It's so mortifying.
And Ty for having that realization, and then like being like, I need to play for myself, and willing to sell it. I mean, absolutely. So
how they constructed it on the show, like they told the story in a way that it didn't hurt me as much. But on the feeds, I couldn't even really watch the feeds because like they were just doing such, in my opinion, a poor job of selling it, and he was just lapping it up as if it was just so. I felt so bad for Jed. I still feel really bad for him because he doesn't see it coming at all. Like at all. And so what else happened after that?
Is he going to do it? We don't know yet.
We don't necessarily know what's going to happen yet, but he's definitely buying it and he's thinking about it. Like it should be a no-brainer. Like, sorry guys, like save myself. We'll deal with what the repercussions is. Let's try to make him put up Braden anyways, and let's keep
that back. Big Brother 101, Big Brother. Never ever win a veto and not take yourself off. Like no matter who's on the block, what's happening under any circumstances, never, ever, ever do that.
The only way you can go home, unless there's like some twist, is if you're sitting on the block at the end of the week. That's the only way that it really can happen, unless it's a direct eviction or something like that. But if you aren't there, you can't go home. And if there's a 50-50 chance that people will change their mind. And also there is a chance that your allies might be like, oh, well, I never thought I'd have the shot.
Yeah.
I didn't really ever think
at the same
about
time, even if you're in a dire situation and you're like, oh, if I make this move, it could be better for all of us or save us or whatever, we'll be better next week. Next week's a different game. I mean, yes, play for it ahead of time. Absolutely. But not at the risk of your own game, like life in this game. So, under any circumstances, you cannot ever convince me to not take myself off the block. Ever, never would happen.
I wouldn't even ask you. Like, what?
If I was Jed, I'd have been like, we're not talking about this because it's never gonna happen. And if other people start coming out being like, oh, maybe that's the move, Jonathan, I'd be like,
okay, you're trying to pull a fast one.
This when I'm like, it's not gonna happen. Nice try, but it's not gonna happen. I'm like, never in this world would that happen.
It's just not a thing. Hi, Moses. So Jed is gullible. It's beyond gullible.
Like,
I think he's not a good game.
The capital G there, capital U, capital, like, it's crazy.
He doesn't. He's not a game player. That's basically what it is. I think that he understands playing in teams. He understands like team sports and groups, and like he gets that.
Fan? Does he watch?
I don't think so. I think the only fans are Kiefer and maybe Beth, I think, are the fans. Oh my God, BB. Canadians, please don't elect Jed as prime minister ever. He might accidentally sign over the country to Russia. LOL.
Well, be the greatest of all time move. And...
oh my God, it'd be so bad. It won't happen. Don't worry. I mean, actually, who knows? Our country's in an interesting state right now, so maybe it could be better. Who knows? But yes, Judd. I can't even say his name. Jed is gullible, and it's really painful to watch. And his poor mom, his mom has been tweeting a lot because she really dislikes Beth, and so I feel bad that his mom is seeing him being kind of worked by Beth, because what they haven't shown is that Beth knows more about what's going on than she's letting on. You know what I mean? So that's very interesting for sure. So basically, you know, Tara knows that Jed is actually considering it. She tells Jed that she swears on her kids that she is going to put up Brayden. I don't think she swore on her kids, though, that he was going to stay. But I think she swore that she was going to put up Brayden.
I thought that she wasn't going to put Brayden up. I was like, oh, she's hardcore. I'm like, I would do the same thing, Tara. You go. I'm like, I thought she was savage enough to like swear on her kids and then not put up Brayden. I was like, if this is going to happen, and if he does this, I thought she's putting up Ty. That's what I thought was going to happen. But
me too, which would be the right move in my opinion, as to if you're going to get him to do this, like, you keep yourself safe here. Like, you don't get duped by them making you do what would be a stupid move,
because it could have been the other way around. It could be Kiefer playing Tara, you know, working with the others to like keep them all in the game still, and Tara could be played, and by putting this up. So it easily could be the other way around. Under no circumstances would I ever put up
somebody that's Brayden, not part of the trio.
Yeah, no.
If I'm trying to get out the trio, I'd make sure that the trio are sitting beside each other at the end of the week. If if there was no other alternative, you know, like, that's just a fact. So Bray gets to the head of household where Tara and Kiefer are talking, and Tara's like, I think he's going to do it, but you're going to have to sit on the block next to him. And he's like, okay, I trust you. Would you be that easygoing about sitting on the block next to Jedson during this week?
You know that me or you would be like, hell no, you aren't going to put me on the block. I'm like, no, you can put Kiefer. His idea. I'm like, absolutely not. I'm like, no. You don't want to break your bond with Ty? Then put Kiefer. He's still here. You're not putting me on the block. That's
absolutely not.
Because if this goes awry, did I screw you? Absolutely not. It would have been Kiefer who screwed you. So he goes on the block. It's his game at the. So again, it's like Ty. It's Brayden's not really playing the game and doing it. He's just like sitting there doing nothing, which bothers me. And if he goes home because of it, I mean, that's your own fault.
It's
because
his fault,
you would not be putting me on the block, and I would tell you why. And it would be
there's no chance.
No, like, it'd be like, well, I want to like save face with Ty. I'd be like, cool. Then you can put Kiefer up. So see you later.
Like, maybe in one of these orgs that we're playing, we could, like, if you're just kind of fussing around, you know what I mean? Like, you're not like playing for $100,000. But if there's prize money on the line, there would be absolutely no chance that I would be the renom. If she didn't show it in the episode, but she asked him if he was okay with it. You know what I mean? Like she actually said, really? Like, I won't put you up if you're not okay with it.
I would never.
I'd be like, oh, okay. Well then, if I get the choice, like,
Big Brother 101. Let's go back to 101 Big Brother. Never volunteer or allow yourself to be put on the block if you can avoid it. Ever.
Never, ever, ever, ever.
Use the veto and don't get yourself on the block.
Gosh, it's just like, these are basics talking about here. So BB wants to know, so if you swear on your kids, then lie. What happens to the kids?
Nothing happens to the kids. It's a game. Say what you want to say. I would swear on my everything. Don't play a game with me. I'll lie to you straight to your face on dead great grandparents that don't exist or something. Like, doesn't matter.
You're the Johnny Fairplay of orgs.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a game. I'm like, people are like, oh, no, you're playing a game for money that could change your life. So say what you want to say. Your kids are going to enjoy being able to go to university and not having massive debt because of it. So you know what? You'd be looking out for your kids. So say what you got to say.
I hear you. I don't know if I could be as ruthless or cutthroat as you can, but I don't know if I would do that myself, but if that was what it took for me to win the game, I would. It reminded me of Sam, who almost put JC on the block. LOL. Brayden is no JC. LOL. I can't even remember. Okay, so that was season 20. Sam the robot,
Yeah.
putting up JC. I mean, it's just all around bad. Don't put up your allies. Don't put up your allies. Don't put up people that can't win. Don't put up people that would tempt people to vote out to keep the major alliance intact. Like, I don't know. It's just,
again, basics. If you're putting someone on the block, there is a chance they're going home, and you're risking that. So if that's not in your fantasy, then don't risk it at all. So, and I don't think she needed to risk it. I think she had options. She could have gone back on her word, because if he's going home anyway, then who cares? Yes, he'd be in jury, but like, so what? Or just don't swear on your kids. Just swear on everything. I just swear on everything. I wouldn't do it to you, or whatever, you need to do. But I know in her head, she's like, I'll swear on my kids and I'll put up Brayden. And then I'll be like, I kept to my promises. I know that, but she needs to really think about how she could be the one who's being screwed over here and being played by the whole house. So it's a big risk. It's a big risk for Brayden. It's a big risk for Tara. It's a big risk for Jed. I mean, who makes out?
Why she's so scared of Ty? Like, at this point, this final 6, like, if you're making this huge move, like, don't be scared of Ty. Who cares at this point? You know what I mean? You're taking out one of the trio. Be like, sorry, Ty.
This week. Yeah, she's trying to win him over. So Ty's in good with this week. Beth's in good this week. And Kiefer, they're all sitting pretty.
And she doesn't care about Brayden because he doesn't win anything. So that's what that would look like to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Moses says this has been a very unorthodox season. Absolutely. I think it's just because people aren't really good at strategy, but they're entertaining human beings. It's so bizarre.
And yet there's like a lot of gameplay too, though. And it's because it's such an interesting mix of people. And like, thank God Kiefer stayed, because he's like coming up with these crazy plans. I mean,
that are working
and allowing, like, again, get him near the end. He's going to be like, by the way, that was my idea. And I have 2 witnesses because I brought it up in the middle of the night. And then I have a 3rd witness with Tara because I went and told her that. And so, I mean, Kiefer makes it to the finals.
I
think he's winning against
anybody right now.
Anybody. And I wouldn't have said that last week, but I mean, anyone right now. Yeah.
Anyone. So pretty much before the POV ceremony, we see Jed talking to himself in the storage room. He's making the sauce logo, symbol to the camera. And he's like, he's like, this is legendary. Legendary means making this happen. And I'm like, oh my God, this will be legendary, but legendarily bad. So we know the Marcellus thing that happened. And I think Lawan, he got himself voted out because he thought he was going to get a special power, I think is what happened with him. Like, so there's just been a few people that have made legendarily bad moves. But I swear that this week and this whole veto is going to go down. It's epic. It's epic, and it's epically bad. And I'm so sorry, Jed, that you are going to have egg on your face, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the only good thing is that for him, we know that there's this fake double eviction that's coming up, which just means that there's basically a battle back. Like, it's going to have 2 people are going, and they are. So if Jed does go, and I'm like, of course, when I heard about this last week, I was like, of course it's the week that, where Tara wins. I'm like, there's a battle. I'm like, are you kidding me? But yeah, so if Jed wins, then you almost need someone like Beth to go next week in order for one of them to get out, because Jed can still win his way back in, and you could still have all 3 of them in the house. So
exactly. So POV ceremony happens. Beforehand, Beth is like, trust your gut. And this is how we've made it this far in this game together. And his gut is steering him the wrong way because he took the bait. Jed uses the veto on his showmance, Beth, who has been waiting for an opportunity to make a move in this game to have, the stats to win. So Beth is off, and Tara does not put up Ty. She puts up Brayden. So Brayden and Jedson are on the block up for to be eliminated. Did you think that this was going to be how this week went down.
No, and it's kind of crazy because it's like he didn't even like he's not even trying to save his showmance. It's not about like, oh, I need to like, I'm like in love with you. I just, I of course I'm using it. Like is how you think that would be the circumstances to like be that dire. When Marcellus did it, he was like he was just so be taken by Amy, and he was just like, I can't, I need to like save you, like, you know what I mean? So it's usually a strong emotional connection that makes someone do this type of a move. This time it was like a planned, thought out, like, oh, I think this is the best for all of us. So it's not even like you're caught up in your emotions about this is just like you're blinded by your ego.
Well,
And
I think he's
so
blinded by he really felt as though the trio was a thing. Like I think he was
yeah, and
blinded by
it's fair
that.
because I would probably trust in that too, but I still, you got to look out for yourself at the end of the day, and I would not be doing that.
Well, and also like the tells at the like throughout the episode, like or the week, with people coming, like if multiple people came up to me pitching a plan that's stupid, like there's no way that I would be able to convince myself like, ooh, it's legendary because it's stupid. Like it's just you don't keep yourself on the block if you're the number one target to get out of the house. It's just like it's just too tempting. Regardless of maybe at the beginning of the week they weren't planning on taking you out, but now that you're sitting up there, it's like, oh, actually.
And I mean, with Braden, he's very confident too, because you even catch DR where he's like, they would be stupid not, and I'm like, they absolutely would be not to take a shot at Jed. And in fact, if they take Braden out and not Jed, you'd be like, well, I'm voting for Jed at the end because you didn't do that. So it's a really dumb move for them if they don't. But what they all don't know is, like I said, with that essential battle back that they have coming up, I mean, it's not a guarantee that anyone who's voted out this week is going home,
Exactly. But I mean, okay,
But I would love, no offense, I'd love to see Jed go. I know it's your last person, but I would love.
Well, I would love Jed to go.
Rewarded. That behavior cannot be rewarded.
I know. I want him to go and then be heartbroken, then see him get an opportunity to come back, and then the person who do you want the most for him to be battling back against?
Well, I mean, in a way, there's if he knew that Beth was aware of any of this, and then like he came back in the house and was like against the people who were closest to him and betrayed him, I would kind of live for that as well. But I mean, ultimately, because I want him to go, I think, and I do like Ty. I just want one of them gone. So it's him or Beth. I want one of them gone this week.
So it would be just desserts if Beth went out next week and they had to battle against each other. So a couple things that Natalie was saying. It's not a spoiler because we don't know what's actually going to happen. So Beth is crying right now and telling Jed that she thinks he's going home. She knows that this is what the intention is. And she actually had an awareness. I don't think that they'll show this. They maybe they will. But being like, oh, but if I'm taking out Jed, I want it to be my move. I don't want it to be Tara getting credit for taking out Jed. And like, I don't want Tara to be the one that's like making this game winning move. She's like, so once she realized that Tara was going to get the most amount of credit for this move, and actually Kiefer in the end might actually get the most amount of credit, but she doesn't even know that.
Yeah.
That she just decided to be like, oh my goodness. And she did go and she told Jed about what was going on. So Jed knows now that potentially Ty and Kiefer are lying to him and want to don't want to keep him.
Why don't you just go to Ty and be like, is this what's happening?
And Ty's lying completely to his face. He's like, you have to try, like, this is us, man. This is us. Like, he's like really selling it in a way that I'm like, oh my God, it's so heartbreaking because he's really using, their friendship. And Ty's saying to the other people, like, Jed's never going to talk to me after this.
Well, if that would be kind of an epic duo
battle
to have, like, battle back if it's the two of them when he like betrayed him. I think just in any situation where you're gonna have someone who's betrayed you left in the house, and you're gonna have someone that, I mean, who knows? He could be battling against Tara or something, or Braden, or who knows. But I mean, the likelihood that he's gonna have someone probably in there battling back against him. I would love, you know what? I want Kiefer to win, I think. So, you know what? Kiefer gets kicked out, battles him, has a third thing on his resume that he
Ooh.
wins back in the house. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I think it would be most interesting. I think Jed and Ty or Jed and Beth would be the most. Jed and Ty would just be such like, man, like best friends, and Ty turned on him, and now
Yeah.
like he's like the underdog and he's trying to fight his way back in.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I don't know if Beth being left in the house and if Jed comes back, she could convince him that she like, you know, wasn't a part of it from the get, or like
I think she already has, because like Natalie's saying here, is Jed in love with Beth right now? Will Jed throw the battle back if he faces Beth because he's in love with her? I don't think that he will throw the battle back, because I think once he would have been voted out, that he would be like, oh, it's game on. Like there's no isosceles triangle. Like that's all completely done. You guys allowed me to be confident in keeping you or taking you off the block. Like there's no, I would hope. I mean, I would hope that he would be like,
I think I would, yeah. I think the Beth and him would be like my favorite. Him and Beth, or him and Ty would be my favorite. So, I mean, for that to happen, like Tara can't play, so it would have to be.
Ty would put up Beth in a second.
True.
Ty would put up Beth and Kiefer probably.
True. So it'd have to be, or maybe like Brayden, just to be like, let's get Beth out. Brayden's safe. But yeah. I mean, yeah. So Beth to go.
Kiefer would put up Beth. Pretty much everybody's going to put up Beth.
Yeah.
So Beth very easily.
Beth needs to save herself, or else she's going. She needs to win HOH or Veto. So.
And Tara would go if Beth wins, I think. Tara, I don't know what if Beth would go. Maybe she'd go against Ty or Kiefer at this point.
She wants Tara gone, but maybe because Tara's been like, but she wants to, you know, she likes me. Maybe Tara can play up on that, and she's like, no, I wanted to keep you. I told you that. You know, who knows? I think it's gonna be very interesting. Great TV.
Yes, Emma Moses. Beth does get on all of our nerves. Absolutely.
I know. She was winning me over. I said from the get-go, but she's winning me over a little bit, and then it all went away. So.
What are you talking about, Moses? So but Jed never saw himself as the number one target. He probably thought that Brayden was the number one target. Come on. Then it's just like after you win the veto, you think that you're less of a target? Like, get out of here. Like even with those numbers, with Brayden at 40 minutes and you at 22, like, come on. Like, you're the target.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So BBean says, so Jed is burning himself with the same sense of loyalty Kiefer had. How ironic. Absolutely it is. And it's after he burned Kiefer. So it's like you burned Kiefer already. So he doesn't owe you anything really anymore because that loyalty has been broken.
You should have stuck to it. You don't stab someone in the back and then take the knife out, turn them around and shake their hand. You push them in front of traffic is what you do. Okay?
Oh my God. Oh my God. But this is true. BBean says that Jed knew him going was a possibility. And so he did weigh out this as a possibility. And he was too confident in his relationship with Ty and Kiefer and Beth that he didn't see that they set him up and they're pushing him in the reign of Tara. They're pushing him underneath that bus. And don't see him staying. I just don't see it.
Thank you, Tara, for studying and working so hard to win HOH this week to make this week possible. Because it could have been a very boring week potentially, but this is like so good.
It's a mess.
Thank you, Tara.
Wow, I didn't know we were going to get to here. Thank you, Tara's. Well, thank you, Jonathan, for talking to me about this episode. I thought that you would think it was nice and tasty. Did you enjoy it? It was a good one, huh?
It was meaty. You know,
love definitely it. Meaty. So lastly, Moses says, not in Jed's mind, he feels like he had the numbers to be safe. That's why he used the vetoes and stuff. Like, I get his rationale. I get it. But the rule is take yourself off the damn block if you can. That's it. Like, even if it's better to, like, throw the veto to somebody for them to use it on you to keep all your group intact. Sorry, man. then you better just win it, because I'm not throwing the veto to you. I'm going to make sure that I win it if I can. And if that's what's had to happen, that's what has to happen. But
And when I talked about basics, like that's what I mean. You need to go in the house with a set of like rules for yourself that you cannot break, because emotions play up, they wear on you, the fact that you're around these people all the time. And you need to know that you're not going to cross certain lines. And for me, it would be like, if I have the chance to take myself on the block, I would absolutely have to, take it. And I would never volunteer myself. Like, there'd be a set of rules that you have to have. And under no circumstances
none.
can you be persuaded otherwise.
You
And
just
you
can't.
just have to have those. You just need to even go into the game playing, like, and ready to do this, because emotions and perspective can change. And it's like, it's a crazy, like, little bubble that they're living in. So I get that it's hard to take yourself out of that, but that's a skill
So
set
risky.
that you can do well at challenges, but you need to be aware of what's going on around you. And so good.
People
Anyway.
lie in Big Brother. They've been saying this all season. People lie. And the last question's from Nicole. Nicole's in the house, says, could Beth be playing an Allison from BBUSA game? So Allison was in season 4, and she basically had a bit of a showmance with, what was his name? He's cute with his like blonde hair.
I
Really
hated
blonde hair.
Allison so much. I was just like, I hate Allison. As just was the thing. I just hated Allison.
I wasn't a fan of her then, but I rewatched that season, and it was pretty dirty. It was a dirty move. Beth is willing to make these dirty moves, but then she kind of goes back on them, and so, but then she thinks she's the best. So I don't think she's actually as cutthroat as Allison is.
No. And
Nathan, yes, you're right, Nicole. Nathan.
Allison was, oh yeah, the curly blonde, whatever. But Allison was, look him up now, Google him. Some people don't age well. But Allison was cutthroat, ruthless, and I did enjoy that about her. But I think she was better. She was a better game player all around than Beth. So she's not on the same level as Beth to me.
Wait, but you like Allison better, correct? Now
yeah. No,
now.
Allison's a better game player than Beth
I agree.
will ever be. So yeah,
agreed.
And I
She's
appreciate that more. Yeah.
Neat. Like Beth is kind of messy in her kind of villainess type stuff. But I felt that Allison was more intentional and cutthroat,
Yeah.
Oops, just kidding. Well, B Bean says, thank you, B Bean. Thank you, Nicole and Moses, B Bean, and Natalie for hanging with us today. I can't speak anymore. Are you working on anything right now, Jonathan, that you want to share with the peoples?
I'm working on myself, on my Peloton.
Just on that Peloton. Look at you go. Getting that summer body.
Yep.
I mean, maybe we can get sponsored by Peloton. Wouldn't that be an amazing thing? I'm down with it for sure.
I can go on for hours about how great the Peloton is, and I hate working out.
Yes, he does. Or did, but not now.
Nope, not with my Peloton Bike Plus. No, we're not.
Oh my God, Natalie, always to throw something in on the end. So this is the thing. So on the live feeds, Beth says that Nicole Franzel is her favorite player. Isn't that a big eye roll? So now we can tell why she's so into like stabbing or like playing these guys and getting to the end and not wanting to look like you didn't do anything so that you lose. Like, she's taking her handbook from Nicole Franzel. And yes, she does do these like cutesy, like I'm girly kind of dancing, kind of like Franzel. Yeah, I roll. But that's it from us. What was happening? So tomorrow, joining me on the block will be JoJo. We'll see what the heck happens with this this eviction and what's going to happen with this battle back. Who's going to face whom will be really interesting. So please come back and join us there later on tonight on Realness with 3 S's. I'll be joined by Fanta and Michelle, and we'll be talking about the finale of the challenge, season 36. So please join us there in a couple of hours. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Reality Pop. It will be your new things for all things reality. So do so and subscribe so you can hang out with us all the time. That's all I got for y'all. That's it. Ciao.